Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Behind the Profile, a feature dedicated to all of us getting to know the people on our profile just a little bit better. And we are back this time with the one and only Sherehan Raw. Sherehan, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Joey. What a wonderful welcome. Thank you. Excited to be here, slash, a tad nervous, but we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. I only promise to throw the fastballs at the end. We're going to throw some change ups at the beginning, get you all ready, and then hit you blindside. So
We got this. Let's do it.
cool. So, life didn't start at Modus. It started a long time before that. I want to talk first and foremost about, your background, growing up, your early educational pursuits, and kind of a 10,000-foot take on how that lended itself to where you are right now in life.
I have a very untraditional background. Most people are shocked when they hear this. I was born and raised abroad. So I was born in Cairo, in Egypt. I grew up in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, and I didn't move to the US until I was 16 to begin my college years. So I graduated from high school super early, started school super early. Needless to say, none of that was a traditional American upbringing, if you will. And I'm the youngest in my family. So from a very early age, I learned to be adaptable, not to be a chameleon. I still have people who know me deeply and know me well. They know that I have a very strong personality, very strong likes and dislikes, very strong, I stand my ground, especially when I know that I'm right when it comes to integrity. At the same time, I am so adaptable, right? Like I had to adapt to a whole new world, a whole new culture, a whole new everything. The language was there. In an American high school. So it's like, it wasn't that different. The culture was different. And I think being young and trying to figure it out, like I just had that I was wired differently. One of my favorite poems I discovered when I was 12 was by Robert Frost, Rogue Less Travel. And I believe like it was written for me. Like I never took the same path. Like everybody in my family went to engineering school. Everybody's an engineer. Like my sister was a rocket space engineer. My brother was a civil engineer. My dad was a civil engineer. Like my uncles were all like some sort of mechanical engineer. I went to school for theater. My undergrad was in theater, focused on creative writing. So my mom went to law school. My dad went to engineering school. My siblings went to engineering schools, and I went to and I got a theater degree. Mind you, I also have an MBA, so like I think that kind of made up for it. But I did my own thing, and I figured I'll figure it out. Like everything is, you can figure it out. Just lead with passion, lead with heart, and figure it out. I was told, like, what are you going to do with a theater degree? But after I graduated, I landed a job at Nationwide and I climbed the corporate ladder at a Fortune 50. And I got promoted to like manage and lead a team of like 16 SDRs and BDRs. I was in my very early 20s, right? Left that, got an MBA, and then I started my own agency because I really wanted to be this full stack marketer. I wanted to do it all, be in every industry, learn everything, all the functions. And I went and I did that. And people were like, this isn't going to work. Like, you need agency experience to run an agency. And I was like, no, I'm just going to build my own. Right. So, anyway, so needless to say, I did it my way and I'm glad I did because here I am.
Yeah, I love that. Couple follow-up questions there. Typically, when I hear about people from other nations coming here, it really fascinates me, specifically that you're from Africa. It's a huge continent, it's so far away. And, there's so many different countries in there, so many different cultures, and Egypt is so different than, say, Cameroon. So, when you came here, you mentioned you were in your teenage years, 16, correct?
Mhm.
You mentioned the culture difference. Name like 2 or 3 things that really shocked you, right? And then on top of that, maybe the bigger question that I think people are wondering is, how did your parents receive the news that they did not have a rocket scientist or an engineer in Sherehan?
My mom and dad have been the biggest advocates for independence and figuring it out and doing what you want to do, but also learning what consequences mean, right? Like you're going to go into theater, you might not be the most successful adult, but like if that's what you want to do, follow your passion. So they've never said no. They've been super open-minded about it all. Culture. So it was my first trip to the US at 16, but it was my first time like moving to the US at 16. Couple of things stood out. So I grew up in Abu Dhabi. I don't know how much you know about Dubai, Abu Dhabi, UAE, and all the like glamour and stuff. Like that's very, very true. And so seeing my peers go to class in pajamas and I am showing up in like, 4-inch stiletto heels and like, full beat. I learned very quickly to, like, tone it down. But, I mean, I went to school somewhere where, like, you're dressed up from head to toe, you change your outfit 2, 3 times a day depending on, like, what's happening. You don't roll out of bed and show up in class in your PJs. So, it was a very different experience, and so I think that was, like, the first thing that I noticed. I was like, "I can go to school in sweatpants? Like, heck yeah, I'm gonna do that." And then they never came off.
And thus the passion for remote work. I see the connection now. It all
Yes.
makes sense.
The yes, yes. Sweatpants for life. I still like to dress up every once in a while.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes, Sherehan, I feel like if I put on at least a shirt with a collar and pants when I'm working at home, I feel like I can accomplish anything, you know? And so mainly the shirt with a collar. So that's
Yes.
the important part there. As I record, I always like to feel comfortable. So I like to wear like cotton t-shirts and stuff. You mentioned your brothers and sisters. How many and where are you positioned? Are you a middle child like me?
I'm the youngest. No, I'm the baby. And I just have a one brother and one sister. So the brother is the oldest, and then the sister is the middle, and then me. So just the three of us.
Okay, very interesting. I always love to talk about family dynamics because I really do believe there's some truth in positioning there. Not always 100%, but sometimes you can
Yes.
find some subtle connections there. Now,
Oh,
you talk
absolutely. The oldest can do no wrong. The middle child carries the burden, and the youngest is spoiled rotten. It is 100% cliche truth in my family. We're all super close. So we talk about it openly. They know I'm the spoiled one. We know she's the responsible one. We know he's like the golden child that can do no wrong. It is what it is.
I bet family reunions are an absolute hoot when you get
Oh,
together.
yes, yeah, no. Yeah, well, I mean, I won at the end because, like, I'm the only one who gave my parents grandbabies, and so now I'm the golden child who can do no wrong.
Right.
Until I moved, now they hate me, but it's okay.
Well, that's okay. There's FaceTime and stuff like this where they'll watch this and be like, "That's our baby. That's our baby." And I love the chemistry you're talking about. You know, it seems like there was always good vibes growing up, a strong support system,
Yeah.
despite having to kind of uproot during. I would say the high school years can be the most challenging, right?
Mhm.
Especially coming from a completely different, not only country but culture, people that look a lot different, act a lot different, showing up to school in their jammies. Now, there are certain days that I put my kids in jammies, but those are usually selected by the schools, you know, like the Tuesday after a long
There were days.
something like that.
Yes.
Do you think, and this is not planned, right? Unscripted right here, that our modern
Mhm.
workforce has been impacted more to the positive side of the spectrum or negative side of the spectrum because of kind of the lax dress code nowadays in corporate America?
Don't think it's been impacted one way or the other. I think it comes down to the individual and how you're wired. For me, like, I've worked from home for the better part of, like, a decade now, and I always got up and got ready like I'm going to the office because that is how I feel productive. If I even if I don't have meetings, I'm fully ready to be on camera because when I'm not, when something comes up, the amount of mental, like, being so pissed off at myself, like, it's more horrible than just be ready for whatever the day brings, because at some point, we all used to have to get ready and go to the office, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it comes down to the individual. Like, I love the flexibility of working from wherever I want because I'm working from Florida. The pool is right there, the beach is right there, I'm in my own office, but I'm not in PJs, right? I'm not in sweatpants. And to each their own. So I think that is completely to you. But there's something to be said about getting ready for the day that puts you, at least for me and most of the people and at my level, like it puts you in a certain frame and a certain mindset where you come in and you're ready to tackle whatever comes your way. and you just it exudes confidence, right? And you feel good about yourself because you feel like you look good, you feel good, you're confident. Then you tackle a really incredibly difficult thing at work, you're more likely to be more open-minded to figure out how to solve for it versus you're all like, yeah, how many pages and blocks. I'm sitting in on my couch working. I don't have a dedicated office space. I feel like that makes you less productive, you know? Also, like, clean space, clean desk, like, no clutter, that kind of like, to me, that's all important, and I hear that a lot from, like, really, really high achieving, very successful people. They show up ready to go. They're ready, they're prepared physically, mentally, emotionally, the space around them is clean, and it shows because look at how successful they are. So, there is a correlation there. Has it impacted the workforce? I haven't been in a corporate office in so long, I don't know, but I could tell you that most of the successful people I know look very presentable, and I think there's something to be said about that.
That is an awesome insight there. We are with Sherehan Ross right here and behind the profile. We have so much to get to. We've only just scratched the surface. Oh gosh, she's getting nervous, and I understand why. Because this next question, I'm digging a little deeper here, Sherehan. We talked about the
Ah,
confidence walking into the room, but let's talk about that journey through college. From feeling lost on your first day and earning an MBA. You were dressed to the nines. I'm sure you had those 4-inch stilettos on. You're ready to rock. What happened?
I did not go to a single classroom day one. I was a 16-year-old naive little girl from, UAE, graduated with the class of like 4 out of, 20. If like I graduated early, so only 4 of us graduated early, the remaining 16 graduated the following year. So private school, tiny school, boom, Ohio State University, 60,000 students now. I don't even remember. But like, so this was like a Monday or Tuesday or whatever day of the week. And my sister had taken me, she's 2 years older. So she had been at Ohio State for 2 years long. And so she knows it. And she took me on a tour and showed me where all my classes were. Well, she did that on a Sunday during the evening, right? So it was fall, it was kind of dark. She took me all everywhere and it was empty and it was gorgeous. And I'm like, we're good. Next day it's bright and early, it's the morning, and there are tens of thousands of other students, and nothing looked the same. So I just found the nearest bench and I sat there waiting for her to come find me because, again, this was before cell phones. And now I'm aging myself. No, we had cell phones, but before you had this texting technology and stuff, our cell phones were flip phones and they were huge and you put a card in them. It was horrible. So yeah, I made it to 0 classes day 1. So that was fun.
Now that we got the awkward out of the way, let's talk about the outcome, right? Because the
Yeah.
impact of the GAP program was huge. Being cited as saying it really helped you understand the process of real world learning through international experience. And I feel like you already had a leg up in that arena. You'd gone across the world practically. So I guess the
Mhm.
obvious question is, how did your experience growing up in Abu Dhabi and in Cairo, Egypt, how did that help you in the GAP program?
Remember, in the US, I'm from the Midwest, and a lot of people in the Midwest, and I hate to say it that way, like the family I married into, like they're not very traveled internationally, right? Like they never really lived anywhere. They speak English, they speak one language, And where I grew up, the bare minimum people spoke was 2 fluent languages and a third like semi good, right? Like, and then it depends on where you are. Like my sister-in-law, who my brother married, she's European and she speaks like 5 or 7 languages, like as fluent as we're speaking right now. Like polyglots just blows my mind, right? And for me, I'm struggling with the 2 that I know. But anyways, so cultures are very different. When you're surrounded by people from all over the world. So like growing up in the UAE, nobody was from the UAE. Everybody was from somewhere else, from Canada, from Europe, from other countries in the Middle East, and even countries in the Middle East are very different. Like Egyptians are very different than Palestinians, than Lebanese, than Sudanese, than whatever, right? Like it didn't matter the continent. Even North African nations like Egypt is very different than Morocco, than Algeria. And so like when you're surrounded by so much diversity in culture, language, and religion, it becomes a lot easier for you to adapt to being in any situation. So during Gap, there was 6 of us, and only 2 of us have ever been in France, and only 2 of us, me and the other girl, the only 2 girls in the group, like, ha spoke French. I barely spoke French, she was fluent, she lived in France, I visited at night. And then the other 4 guys, true white, American boys who were completely just, like dumbfounded by the culture. And you just have to realize, like, you're in their, when in Rome, you're in their world. So either adapt or just at least be polite and courteous to the fact that you're the alien or you're the foreigner, and they owe you nothing, right? Wonderful people, amazing people, but it was, even for me, a bit of a culture shock because, like, I had been in the US for so long, and then I was in Lyon, France, and I totally forgot how, like, there's no personal space, right? Like, when you stand in line, people are like, and this is way before social distancing and all that shit, but, like, seriously, they don't like, when they talk to you, might as well be, like, making out, like, they're so close, and when you're, like, in line, like, first of all, there is no line. There's like a fall, right? Like, everybody just goes. Like, they're yeah, it's mad. It's maddening. Like, I mean, the things you see are real. Stereotypes exist for a reason, but, like, you forget that you're in a different country and they do things their way. But then when they eat, there's no fast food. You sit down for hours and you have a meal and it's social and it's enjoyable and you have courses and you have wine and bread and cheese and, like, it's not just like eat and go. Like, another thing that was very interesting. So we worked, right? Like, it was a program where we were actually working as consultants for Scott's Miracle Grow. And I told 'em, you guys, like, chill. And they were very like, "Oh, we're gonna log in at 8 and not log out until 5, or 8 to 5 through Monday through Friday." Boo. Guess what? We're the first people in the office. We're the only people in the office. We're the only people who take lunch for like 30 minutes and we're back at our desks. And we're the only people there until 5. Like, I mean, and they're not lazy, it's just a different culture. You get up, you have your coffee, you do your thing, you show up when you show up, you leave when you wanna leave, you take a long lunch, and business was fine. Like, nobody, everybody worked because everybody was happy because nobody was, like, rushing and stressing, and I was so embarrassed because, like, even they were like, "Oh, the Americans are here," and I was like, "Oh my god, like, now you have bad reputation. The Americans are here dating. It must be anything wrong. The Americans are here." It's just hysterical. It prepped me, but it also still shocked me a little bit.
Yeah, so do you still take your 30-minute lunch, or are you resorting back to cultural norms and taking the extra 2, 3 hours? I mean, I gotta know.
I work at a startup now, so it's like, it's a very different world.
About 10 minutes.
Very, very different. And but also, like, I don't work in an office. I'm on the executive leadership team. Like, I don't have a set whatever. But for me personally, I'm still a very prompt and efficient person. I'm in my office at 9 and I'm usually in my office until 5.
Mm.
And when I say office, like dedicated office space, right? Outside of those hours, do I still work? Occasionally, but, like, I might be at the pool, I might be in my bed, I might be with my kids, I might be at the grocery store. But within the 9 to 5, typically I like to be here. And when I take a break to eat, like, I want to be here so I'm not distracted. Life is different when you're a mom and you have kids. And, like, even though they're in school, school ends at 3, end at 3. So, like, if I'm around them, I might get distracted or, yeah. So, but there's flexibility, of course. Again, because I am a working mom and I do work at a startup. And some days I'm here until like 8 p.m. and daddy has to do bedtime. And other days, like, I'm the one picking them up from school and ending the day at 2, it's flexibility that matters.
It's not as simple as it used to be depicted in 1950s, 60s, even 70s American television, right? Where you had the dad would go to work, the mom would stay home, she'd be there for the kids, doing laundry. Maybe Alice, the housekeeper, was there, Brady Bunch reference. But there was a different vibe and there was a different expectation. Now, with a shrinking middle class, it's a rarity when there's a stay-at-home individual, whether it's the male or the female. Like, a rare exception, my older brother. He's a bartender. He works at a really swanky spot in downtown Philadelphia. So during the day, he's up with the kids. as early as he can, but he's late to bed. So to help get them off the bus, and if he can wake up,
And go to back to sleep.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and then his wife is a nurse, so they do that. For me, I work from home, but my wife is a nurse, so on the days where she's at work, I'm getting up with the kids, and it is a balancing act. It's all nowadays, we've gotta figure it out. And then you mentioned the pandemic and how that threw a monkey wrench in
Mhm.
everything, but it really did prove, kinda to your point earlier about productivity in the workforce despite flexing circumstances, it really does prove that it is up to the individual to determine their value and worth in the arena they've selected to be in. And it's obvious that you practice what you preach, because I notice your activity on LinkedIn. I've seen your resume, so to speak, on LinkedIn. It is absolutely stunning to know. First of all, it takes guts. I mean, it takes guts. I'm gonna say it louder for the folks in the back, to start your own agency. I feel like there's an agency on every corner, like there's a church or a Waffle House in Georgia. And it's
Yeah.
so hard to separate yourself from everybody else that says, well, I do this, we do this, and we're the best at it, obviously. Duh, we have a website,
Yeah.
we have a LinkedIn page. How did you break the glass, especially as and I don't like to beat the drum too much, but it's a bit more of a challenge to be a female entrepreneur. There are a lot of ceilings that you
Ah.
have to break through. How did you do it? If you could give me like the Cliff's Notes version, like 3 or 4 things that that stuck with you, that you knew you could stick by to make it through that.
Well, the most important one is I didn't turn down any jobs in the beginning and I worked for free. Is that advice? No. Because not everybody can have that privilege to be able to prove themselves for free before they earn a living, right? I just had an opportunity where I was able to do that. I had a very supportive husband who took care of everything else while I built my book of business. Because, like, I had no business being an agency. I mean, it started off as me being a freelancer. I just didn't wanna be in corporate America. I wasn't going anywhere, and digital marketing was a thing that, like, Nationwide wasn't jumping on. This is pre-TikTok. This is, like, early Instagram, early Facebook advertising, early LinkedIn, early Twitter before X, right? And so, I really wanted in on that, and I had just finished my MBA, and I had a lot of courses with entrepreneurs, in CP in food and beverage, of all things. Like, there's all these my life is already kind of, like, made up. But anyways, so I just went out there and I started freelancing. I had my business card, I had my, like, website that I threw up by myself and, like, figured it out on the go and started telling people what I did for a living even before I was doing it. And, somebody would be like, "Well, I don't have a budget." And I'm like, "Hey, why don't we test it out for a couple of months? And if you like me, start paying me." And I landed my first client who introduced me to somebody else, and then the next, and then the next. And finally, I was making nothing to making peanuts to making really good money to turning it into like an LLC, like it was Digital Bricks Marketing. That was the name of the business, to getting bigger clients and like sign somebody for like tens of thousands a month, like for a whole year. That was like my biggest client. Then ended up with Approach Marketing, which really was that stepping stone for me. Like I owe them Megan Shoy, who's the president of Approach Marketing, and that whole team of amazing, fabulous women that are lifetime friends, colleagues, mentors, peers. I have never picked up the phone, texted, or emailed and not gotten a response from them. I actually just emailed Megan, Liz, and Sarah Ann, and shout out to them, to make an introduction because I thought they needed that to meet somebody in my network. And immediately everybody's replying. So, and this was back in like 2018 that I worked with them, right? It's been years, but they're amazing. Anyways, so Approach Marketing was its own agency. It was a PR agency. Megan Troy started it. It's like one of the best boutique PR agencies ever. They will always be the first I would call if I ever have PR needs. But anyways, they needed somebody in digital marketing, and so I sort of consulted with them. So like I had Digital Bricks agency, but if they got a client that needed any of my expertise, like I would work that account with them. And then that sort of became my full-time job, even though I wasn't full-time. I was a freelancer, I was a consultant, I was getting paid as Digital Bricks. I ended up doing so much with them because they had so many clients and so many amazing opportunities that I focused on it 100% for like 2 years until the pandemic. And the pandemic changed my course. So like I cannot tell you how many times I started over in my career, in my life, and everything. Like it was always like one thing after the other. And the pandemic was especially hard for us because we became first-time parents and during the pandemic. So, like, I don't know how y'all did it that you already had kids and schools and had to do all of this. Like, I was just pregnant giving birth. You don't know? It was a wild ride, but everything changed. I lost 90% of my revenue. I lost approach marketing altogether. And then a digital breaks, like most of them were food and beverage and industry. So all of those were shut down. All the services were shut down. Nobody's going to pay an agency or marketing if they don't even have their doors open. So I took a unplanned maternity leave, and I look back now, and in the moment, you're freaked out, but I look back, and you know what? I got to nurse my baby. I got to be with my baby. I got to bond with my baby. She's my little best friend. She's almost 5.5 now, and she's amazing. Yeah. So you look back and you're like, all the horrible things, like in the moment, you don't realize, obviously, hindsight is 2020. In the moment, you're struggling, but there's always something that good that comes out of it because baby number 2 was second wave of the pandemic and also another layoff and also thought the world was ending and like we were just starting that business with the sauce and I'm having a baby and I don't have a job, all this like the no 401k and no benefits and no all of this and I'm having another baby. But once again, I got to enjoy my second baby, who is still my snuggle buddy. He's 3.5 now, and I got to nurse him, and I got a maternity leave that wasn't planned. Again, like life throws curveballs, and it's how did they say it was like 10% of what happens to you, and like 90% how you deal with it. And I think it goes back to like what I said in the beginning, this adaptability, this like learning to like roll with the punches and realizing that whatever bad shit storm you're in, like it will end. This too shall pass. It has to pass. You're never going to be in the like change is inevitable. You're never going to be stuck in the same place. So like either sulk and cry and be depressed about it or realize it's a phase and you're going to move on or do both. Like I'm not saying don't sulk and cry and be depressed about it. Absolutely. I've had those and had those days. We all have those days. But it's knowing that this can't be it. It's either gonna get better or it's gonna get worse. So do what you will with that information, but this isn't it. It is never it. So it's either only gonna go get better or it's only gonna get worse. It's not gonna stay the same. So that's a big mindset to have.
I mean, that's such a great insight, and I think that's so applicable on a personal level, but then we see businesses and organizations go under, and there are some things that happen, right, out there that could force an in-person company to or a restaurant. We saw restaurants go out of business, retailers go out of business, bad practices. Maybe people that don't apply that, get back up, fix it, wait it out, cry it out, or in the meantime, figure it out. So I want to know when you are consulting with CPG brands, right? So you're talking consumer packaged goods, kind of bring it back to, I guess, brass tacks for brands that are listening, because you have so much experience and this is an opportunity for them to kind of get a free tip, right? But I encourage them to reach out to you for more personalized, brand centric information. But you really do focus on some pillars: the blending of storytelling, strategy, and data in building brand resonance. So, if we're just leaning into that in and of itself, how do you explain that to, let's say, you could pick any brand that you've worked with, you don't have to name them, but just a template case study. How do you explain that to somebody who thinks they know what they're talking about despite the results flatlining?
Everybody's a marketer and everybody has an opinion. And it's one of the hardest things to prove because it's so top far. Even if marketing is involved in everything from awareness to like even customer at some point, like we're still the ones who are sending out newsletters to current customers. So marketing touches the end consumer at all times. However, it is very difficult because you're always like, well, did this person find me because of this post, of this ad, of this referral, of this event, of this podcast. Like and so then you get stuck in this rut of like attribution hell, which is the hardest thing to do. And so then everybody just goes last touch attribution. Well, last touch is always going to be like the easiest thing. But if I only go by last touch and last touch said LinkedIn, like, and I put all my money in LinkedIn, even though everybody came word of mouth from a referral or from something else, like I'm missing out. So marketing becomes very difficult. And the reason I wanted to be a full stack marketer is because I wanted to make sure that whenever I worked with anybody as a consultant and now in-house, like now, like I said, I'm a VP of marketing at Modus. I want to be aware of the entire funnel, which I think doesn't even exist. Like there is no funnel, but that's a whole other conversation and a whole other rant. But, like, I wanna be involved in in everything. Like, I wanna be able to focus on branding because without branding, you don't exist. People need to know who you are and what you do in order to be able to, like, buy from you, right? Like, they don't just buy from a no like, it's all people to people. It's all human. And so as a marketer, like, you're part psychologist, you're part scientist, you're part finance mathematician, you're part, creative and, like, you're doing all the ads and all the fun stuff, but like marketing is all of it combined. There's art and there's science and there's strategy and there's planning and there's the execution. And so to be a good marketer, you want to know it all. You want to be full stack. You want to be like a deep generalist, if you will. You want to have the ability to test and the aptitude to learn from your experiments. And that's where the data comes in. The storytelling is just the human nature. You wanna make people feel something and then take action based on that feeling, and that happens through storytelling. So that's your branding. Your testing is helping you with the data. Like, for example, I just kicked off some Google ads. I'm testing that channel to see if it's something important for us, because some of our competitors are doing it, and I wouldn't be a good marketer if I didn't take into consideration every channel at my disposal. So I'm running it as a test. I'm gonna pull all the metrics and I'm gonna run and look at that data and figure out like, should we double down? Should we continue? Should we stop? Same thing with everything. But at the end of the day, like if you're not top of mind, nobody cares. Your buyers are not always ready to buy, and you have your in market and your out of market. And if you're trying to attract your out of market, like they need to know that you exist. And when we come back to the branding, which is technically top files. So it's just a messy, fun, challenging, exciting function to be part of. But like I said, it's marketing by committee is like the death of marketing. Once you have too many cooks in the kitchen, everybody having an opinion, everybody thinks they know marketing, then you kind of lose what marketing's job and function is, which is to drive demand. And the only way marketing can drive demand is by building awareness. Period. End of story. I don't want to hear anything else, right? Like so but then you start hearing all these things like about revenue and attribution and like the cycles and the funnels and like let's throw more acronyms at it and maybe we'll do better. I think B2B SaaS like just kind of went down this horrible path that some of us are trying to fix. And now there's like all this conflict. Like I see it on LinkedIn and I'm like, guys, let's just go back to basics. Marketing 101. What are we trying to accomplish? We're trying to make somebody feel something and take action based on that feeling. And the only way we're going to do that is through storytelling. In the form of content now, digital content, but content nonetheless, and staying top of mind, and then just kind of taking them through a journey until they either decide to buy or you decide they're not your ideal buyer. And then, of course, all the nuances and the tactics and like figuring out who your buyer is and what is the right message and the right channel and the right timing and all these rights that make it like perfect. Those are all the executions that you either learn or test or experiment with, or, you have a playbook that you start. But I always say like playbooks are not like a blueprint. They're just a starting point. So whoever has a playbook that you want to follow, great. That's a starting point. You got to make it work for whatever you're doing. There's no cookie cutter approach in marketing. There's no like one playbook fits all. Industry nuances, the different type of buyers, the different type of channels, the different type of messaging, like all of that comes into play.
You're on Behind the Profile, and you just received about $1,000 worth of free advice there. I'd say minimum 1K there. So that's the benefit of listening to the show. You're talking to professionals. I'm not talking about me as one, but the people that I bring on the show, they are the true pros. I'm going to ask you about people that are stuck in this situation where they work for an organization that has a $0 marketing budget. But before we do that, you talk about testing and learning and unlearning truths and things that used to be true, but maybe not be true tomorrow, or it was just true yesterday, but tomorrow we're going to wake up to a headline that says this technology is obsolete. Forget about it. Right. So, what's one thing in Sherehan's world that you were so sure about? Right. Either it was going to work or it wasn't going to work. But then after you tested it, you realize, man, I was so wrong about that.
It's one of the very first people to sign up to ChatGPT when it first came out. And so I was one of the very first people that trained it on the M dash that everybody now hates. Because remember, it's a language learning model or machine, and so it learns from the people behind the thing. And some of these people were writers, and writers like M dashes and Oxford commas and anywho, but now supposedly if you put an M dash in anything you write, all of a sudden you're accused of not writing it and that Chat GPT wrote it. Which let's not go there. But anyway, so this is what 2021, and I had a friend like a high school friend who's like a college professor and like cyber something genius something. He was talking about it. And I was like, eh, another tool, another thing to learn, another blah blah blah. But something about it, like in my gut said, like, jump on this, Sherehan. Jump on this. This isn't a fad. This isn't a trend. This is an experiment and an upskilling, and either it's a colossal waste of your time or like the best thing you could do for your career. So I jumped on it. And it turns out it was the best thing I could do for my career. I mean, I released a LinkedIn course about marketing and AI and how to use AI as a marketer. And where it's going, I don't know. Like I'm not like a Elizabeth Adams or like any of these like people that are very much teaching others about AI and agentic AI and all that stuff. I would consider myself more of a power user, more so than like a somebody who creates something. But because I've been with my chat GPT from the very beginning, like it's full and I pay like the $200 a month. It's totally worth it for me. But anyways, I literally have a GPT for everything. Things related to marketing and career and things personal and family and kids and like it's amazing. And I have been training it for so long that of course it still hallucinates, but I feel like the hallucination rate is significantly lower because, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So like the input is just as important. And I get out of it what I need. And it has cut so much time for like mundane stuff, like, the templates. Like now I have a template for everything and I could just plug and play. I could just go to it and be like, hey, pull this template. Here's all the information I have. Make it work instead of me sitting in front of like the computer for hours, copying and pasting, doing all this shit. Like it already does it for me because I've created that template. It's sitting there. I have the information. I don't have to sit there and rewrite it. I don't have it's become my proofreader because like if anything, I am the best misspeller on planet Earth. I can't spell. I've always been a terrible speller. And so, like, when I was by myself, a party of one or like a marketing department of one, I needed a proofreader and I had to pay freelancers like to be my proofers. And now AI is anything I write, I'm like, hey, proof this for Salem. So yeah, I was one of the first people to jump on AI and I'm glad I did. I'm not the best at it. I'm still learning. And I think that you can never really be an expert in anything because nothing stays the same. And so I just continue to learn. And every time somebody puts out a prompt or something new, and I'm like, heck yeah, let me go experiment with that and see if it works for me.
I foresee a future that's somewhere between the two movies Wally and Terminator 2. In the Wally world, I see
They got so lazy and fat and just yeah. Yeah.
it's easy. So how do we
Yeah.
escape that and use it as an opportunity but not a replacement for our God-given
Yeah.
talents?
Yeah, so Terminator is not gonna happen. Like, I highly doubt that. Machines are not gonna take over the world, but the Wall-E thing, I think we're living in right now. That was the first thing my husband and I talked about with AI just even a year ago. We're like, "Remember Wall-E?" He's like, "Yeah, I feel like we're living that." I'm like, "We're totally living that." New things. People like us, we have to teach the next generation correctly. So, as parents, as teachers, as peers, as mentors, as colleagues, as bosses, as managers, as executives, as whatever the heck you are, some sort of position of power, pass on knowledge that is going to help the future generations. Number two, Wally is going to have because we can't control what we can't control. We can't control people. And people have a tendency to like things to be easy and comfortable, like we're creatures of habit. There's comfort built into our DNA. We seek that comfort. And so, because of that, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but like I do worry. Very simple example. Did you grow up with a calculator or did you do math by pen and paper in hand and brain and stuff?
It was great question because I feel like that's just assumed now that you would start with a calculator because it's always correct. I was raised to show my work with pencil
Mm.
paper and then verify with a calculator. But then I
Right.
realized, Sherehan, like everybody else, that like
It's much easier to just use a calculator.
reverse engineer.
Like,
Why would I start with
yeah,
flaws? I'll start with perfection.
yeah. Exactly. That's the core issue is,
Mhm.
do you want to use your brain for critical thinking or do you want the easy answer to make sure that it's correct? And there's no way to make anybody do either. Like I think it's going to come down to the individuals. So IQ has been democratized. It's become a commodity because you can find information within a few seconds. I mean, do you remember encyclopedias? Do you remember having to go to the library to fucking get out a book to learn something that you're curious about? Like you couldn't have a debate. Like the debate took weeks because people had to leave, go get the information and come back and finish their debate. And today, like a debate can happen in 3 seconds. Like you say something, I fact check you, and I'm like, there you go, boom, duck, conversation over, debate over. Nobody speaks. The information is out there. So that's the dark side of technology. I would like to figure things out. I don't want you to tell me the answer, but I'm also a very impatient person, and sometimes I just want the answer. So I am my own judge on when I use AI for an answer and when I like research the old-fashioned way. But as a mother, I'm teaching my children to conflict resolute, to process information and come up with a solution, to not just expect an answer, but sometimes we have to think like critical thinking, right? Conflict resolution, critical thinking. Learn from your mistakes. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. Like, I know for a fact that if you throw that rock up in the air, it's going to land on your head and it's going to hurt you. But I'm not going to tell you that because you should know that by doing it.
Yeah.
It's not the most dangerous thing. I mean, I'm not gonna let you learn that you can get burned by, like, locking you in a fire or anything stupid, but I'm just saying certain things, we used to joke about that, like, just remove the labels and let it sort itself out, like, caution this and caution that. Like, these labels are there for a reason because somebody probably did something, extremely stupid and got electrocuted, and now the manufacturer has to put the label on it, like, "Don't take your blow dryer to the tub," like, "You will die."
It was me. I'd like to apologize for all that, but it's probably good for the economy. Somebody's gotta make those labels, so you're welcome also at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so there's a balance and I don't know what the answer is. I'm like, I'm not gonna solve that problem now, but I think it's through advocacy, education, people in a place of I want to say power. I don't like that word, but like as a parent, it's your job to teach your kids. As a manager, it's your job to lead your team. As a whatever, it's. So I think we need to do that collectively to make sure that it doesn't turn dark. But also, there's nefarious people with nefarious agendas, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about that.
One of the truths that's kind of ugly nowadays, you talked about a lot of people are bootstrapping it, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, smaller agencies, maybe SMBs that are struggling to figure out where to put the extra dollars they have as far as marketing goes. And so this kind of takes us back to that tease that I delivered earlier, and I want to deliver on the tease with your insights, not mine. What advice would you give? How would you guide them to succeed in a B2B
Mm.
space?
Talk to your customers. Uh, really, really go talk to your customers. If you don't have a budget, pick up the phone, talk to your customers, ask insightful questions about Why are they your customer? What would have almost made them not be your customer? Why wouldn't they tell their friends to be your customer? Who would they tell to be your customer? If they were to run your business or if they were to say, please make this happen, like what would that look like? What can I do for you, my customer, that will make you so much happier? Like, what can I offer? Talk to your customers everything you need to know about how to run your business, about what to do with marketing, about what to do with messaging, about what to do with your product, what to do with anything is with your customers. Because unless you don't have customers, then you don't have a product market fit, then you don't have a product, like you don't have a business. But if you have a business and you have customers, go talk to them. There's no magic. It's all there. The information is there. You just gotta go ask and do with it what you will, but hopefully you'll do something correct with it. Like, at Modus Planning, we always talk to our customers and we get feedback on all of our tools and software, and we improve every single day. We release new features because they're telling us, "Hey, I want this." We don't know. We're not in it every single day, even though everybody who built this came from the same industry. So it's built by CPG people. But now whoever my customer is who's using my tool, they're in there and they're like, oh, this should have done this, but it didn't do that. Well, I didn't know that. Now I know. Let me go give this feedback to product and say, please update this feature. I wouldn't have known if I didn't ask, and you can ask them any way you want. But the easiest is to pick up the phone and talk to them. But like you could do surveys, you could do WhatsApp polls, you could do emails. I don't care. Talk to your customer. That's the easiest, quickest, fastest way to keep your business alive. If you have a little bit of budget, hire a marketing generalist, right? Like your first marketing hire should be somebody who is very experienced and very, very deep generalist. Somebody like me and my peers. We exist. I know we exist because I exist. So that's your first marketing hire, especially if you're a start. Fork over the money, get somebody not a junior and not like a shallow generalist, somebody who has sat in the executive seat and planned, but also sat in the team seat and like executed that kind of a generalist. Somebody who can run the Google ads, not just tell you how to do it. Somebody who can like write the content, not just strategize about how many times you should post on LinkedIn. Somebody who's done it all, and that should be your first marketing hire because they will run your marketing department as a party of one until budget allows for them to grow their team and bring in whatever they need, whatever their weakest thing is in their toolkit, like bring in the specialist to fill in that void.
Oh, there's so many more questions I have for you, but you've been on this for an hour. I know you have a family and stuff. So I want to wrap this up with a fun kind of note. When I first met Sherehan, she said something that blew my freaking mind, guys. Okay, so you know how we have artists, musicians that we look up to. I'm not a rapper. I'll never be a rapper. I can barely rhyme and I stutter a lot. But Sherehan, I would love for you to tell the story about the time you almost connected with the one and only Dogfather, Snoop D-O-double-G. See, I told you I stuttered. See, I delivered.
Oh my goodness. I've been on LinkedIn forever, but like about 3 years ago, I decided that I was done lurking in the shadows or being like a consumer. I wanted to be one of those people that were creative. And so I started posting, I started publishing, I started being like my own social proof. Like I'm a marketer, let me show you what I could do. And one of the first communities that I joined was that like crypto community because I had previously been the CMO of a crypto startup. That's where I got laid off, by the way, when I was 8 months pregnant. So that's the point. But anyways, so like my first thing was focusing on like the Web3, the crypto, the Bitcoin, and started meeting all these wonderful people. Most notable are John Kraske, who we all know and love dearly, and then Dr. Ankur Prasad. So they were two of the first people that like welcomed me with open arms, and from there, like I met everybody. Like you were one of those people. There was Joel. There's Leah. They're just it's very very tight knit, very open and welcoming. And right time, Mr. Snoop D-O-double-G himself decided to join LinkedIn. This was a time where like spam was like coming up, AI had just kind of like ChatGPT had just kind of started. And so if you had any type of presence on LinkedIn, you're getting spammed. on DM. You're getting requested to be connected to bots. Like people were pretending to be people. There was like some prince in Abu Dhabi that like insisted on being my friend, and like apparently he was insisting on being everybody else's friend. Like I know it's not him because like the prince himself is on LinkedIn, and we all know, but like he's pretending to be that guy. But anyways, so then I get a connection request and it was from Snoop Dogg. And so I laugh it off and I block him immediately. Like I was just like, yeah, Snoop Dogg wants to follow me. It's block. And 2 days later, John Kraske is posting about Snoop Dogg coming to LinkedIn because even Snoop Dogg realizes that LinkedIn is a gold mine and like this is where everything happens. And Snoop's like really big in like Web3. And I was like, shit, it was really him. Is that I go back. So like he only had like 200 followers when he tried to connect with me. 3 days later, he's like in the million. And so, but he now is taking care of his account. Like it was no longer, it was him for the first couple of hundred. And then it was like whoever his team is. So of course I go back and I'm trying to connect. And like till this day, my connection request is pending 3 years later because I blocked him.
Well, I'll tell you what, LinkedIn is also the land of second chances. So if Mr. Brodus is watching or listening to this, I do believe he'll give Miss Sherehan Ross a second opportunity.
Please, Snoop. I don't know if you remember this, but like it was the late 90s. No, it's early 2000s. You had a gig in Columbus, Ohio, and we all hung out with you, me and my girlfriend. On your
Well, we're gonna have to talk
co-host.
about that on the second interview with Sherehan, couple months. But in the meantime, I can't thank you enough for all the time you spent. You've been so gracious. Marketing can be a rocky road, business can be a rocky road, but if you are looking to smooth that out, let's say you're a CPG brand, I would definitely encourage you to click on the links in the description. You can connect with Sherehan, Modus Planning through there. You have questions, she has answers. And you have been with us right here on Behind the Profile in Wenzler World. Sherehan Ross, thank you so very much. God bless you for your time.
Thank you, Joey. This has been amazing. You've been wonderful host. I really, really loved our time together. Thank you.